Good morning. Welcome you back to the class. This is the 17th lecture on applied electromagnetics. Today we are going to discuss about electric field. As you will see, the concept of electric field has come from the force of interaction between two charged bodies. And recall from the previous class where we discussed in great deal about Coulomb's force, which states the force of attraction or repulsion between two unlike charges or like charges respectively is given by the product of the magnitude of the two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them, and the direction of the force is along the line joining the two forces, two charges. Having said this, how are the charges interacting? This is the fundamental question that Maxwell was confronted with. Rather, to be precise, his mind was confronted with, and he came to believe that there is a medium called the ether, the jelly-like substance, through which these charges are interacting. And what he said was, the electric field created by these charges are causing some stresses and strains on this medium, ether, and through which it is exerting a force on the other charge. This is what he believed. But later, it was understood that there is no substance like ether. Okay, from the theory of relativity. So that is one thing. However, the force of interaction between these two charges is real. Then how are they interacting? And if the charges are far, the interaction is going like 1 by r square. So interaction is smaller, weaker. But if they are brought in the vicinity of each other, they start to interact. So there is something happening in the vicinity of each of these charges. So what is that happening, and how do I physically measure what is happening surrounding each of these charges? So the concept of electric field was then put up, and it still holds good. So this class is all about how do I compute this field. So if you ask me what this field is like physically, one cannot actually tell what it is, but it is there. One can actually tell you how to compute this field, what is the direction of the field, everything. But one cannot physically, it's a concept in a sense, if you want to call it a theoretical abstract concept to explain the interaction between the two charges. Okay, so I think I have given you brief introduction about what this electric field concept is. Let us get to the detail. So what is this field due to? Discrete charges. Discrete charges are point charges. They are discrete in nature, which means they are separate from each other. One point charge, another point charge, another point charge, like that, so on and so forth. Now, as I told, each of these charge present in space interact with the other charge through the concept of electric field. Okay, so that is the key point. And how are they interacting? So let us call this black circle, what you see here is a what I would like to call it as a source charge. I want to introduce the concept of source charge and test charge at this point. The source charge produces a field surrounding it. Okay, so it is interacting with the test charge through this field. Our aim is to compute what is the magnitude. Right now, let us assume that I have a charge in space and I call it as source charge QS. Now there is another charge I bring in the vicinity of this charge and I call this charge as test charge. And this test charge is experiencing a force due to the presence of the source charge. Okay, along the force, as we just discussed, is the Coulombic force directly proportional to the product of the two charges. The magnitude of the, let us say this is 5 coulomb, this is 2 coulombs. The force will be directly proportional to 5 into 2 will be 10, proportional to a factor of 10. Okay. Now, if this is like 100, then the magnitude is going to go further up. Okay. So depending on the magnitude of these charges, the force is going to be the number. Now I have written the symbol J. I will come to that. What is the subscript J? Just for some identification I had written. I will come to that. Now the force of interaction is along the line joining, and the position vector that separates the I would rather use the word not position vector, because position vector we always reserve it for the reference point origin or some reference point. So I would rather call the displacement vector from source to test as R1 vector, and that is the mod of this R1 gives the distance between the two charges. So the force of interaction is along the line joining the two charges like this. Similarly, and this force I write it as F S1. S stands for, so what it means is actually the subscript S1 stands for the force acting on test charge 1 due to source. So 1 due to source, that is the subscript. Similarly, I can actually have so many charges I can bring and I call them each of them as test charge. This is my nomenclature, and each of these test charges experiences a force due to the source charge like this. And you can see the force has, so this experiences a force along this direction, this charge experience along this direction. Suppose if I were to bring this test charge over here, it will be along this direction, and this test charge over here, it will be along this direction. So throughout it will be experiencing even Q1 itself. So what it means is the force is along the line joining, and the magnitude of this force is going to be dependent on the product of the two charges. In this case, let us say I use only Q1 and QS, in which case the product of this is going to be constant. However, depending on the point at which I keep this test charge, it can be closer, or it can be farther, or it can be even further, or it can be here, or it can be here. Depending on that, the force is going to go up or go down. Okay, so, and there is also the direction is changing depending on where these test charges are placed. So which means very clear, evidently, since every point in space, listen, since every point in space is ascribed to a particular magnitude or is referenced to a particular magnitude of this force, and also direction. Then we call this field, force field, as a vector field. So electrostatic force field is a vector field. Gravitational force is a vector field because it is always pointing downward. Okay, so no matter where, it is always pointing downward. Depending, of course, you have to imagine the Earth as sphere, round. Okay, so if it is along this direction, along this direction, along this direction, it is always attracted towards the surface of the Earth. So that is a vector force field. So is electrostatic force field. Okay, now they are interacting. That is fine. How are they interacting? So I already told you at each of these points, they are going to have different magnitudes and different directions. So in order to visualize something is happening in this space that is surrounding this source charge. Okay, so what is that happening around this? And we have to ascribe a physical quantity. That physical quantity surrounding this source charge is what we call it as the electrostatic force field, electrostatic field or force field. So that is called, simply I have written electric field, but you must understand this source charge is always at rest. Okay, so I imagine like that, but in reality you must understand that no charge is at rest. That's a different story. For building the concept towards in-depth understanding of electrodynamics or electromagnetics at a higher level, we need to begin somewhere, and easiest way is to begin at the lowest level and then ramp up our knowledge. So in electrostatics, with Coulomb's law and principle of superposition, we will be able to learn the fundamental concepts step by step. That is the idea. So here I assume the source charge to be at rest, and this actually surrounding this there is something called electrostatic field. Through this field, the force of interaction is taking place. Both force, electrostatic force and electric field are examples of vector fields. Okay, let us talk further on this. So this field is represented by these solid black arrows. You can see the black arrows, and I have drawn, if you look at here, along this, it's a radially symmetric, or you call it spherically symmetric. Okay, symmetry is that of a sphere of this field, which means radially it is diverging. At any point on the surface of this first sphere, if I would like to call like that, the field magnitude will be same, but the direction you can see they are dependent and different. Okay, now I go further. The field is going to go again by 1 by r square. So therefore, I have represented by a shorter arrow. Now going further away from the source charge, the field is going to be even less intense. Go further down, it is going to go less intense. How less intense is given by this inverse square dependence of the distance of the point with respect to the source. Now if you ask me this question, so these test charges, they are experiencing force not only due to the source charge, they are also experiencing forces due to the other test charges which are present. It is just that for the idea of understanding this concept, I call this black circle as my source charge, the rest of the blue circles as test charges. And it could be the other way also. It is just the way I wanted to sound it so that you understand the concept of the interaction between a source charge and a test charge. That's about it. Then the second point you must note down, the radius of this, the diameter of these blue circles, which represent the point charges at various points, they are of different sizes. Just to make you understand that the magnitude of these charges are not the same. They are rather different. So therefore, it is not only dependent on the magnitude of these charges, but also dependent on the inverse square dependence of the distance between the two charges. Now, one must also make a fact here. Okay. If I want to tell you something very clearly, the principle of superposition, which is an experimental fact, not a logical necessity. I will tell you something very emphatically. If you consider any pair, whether you consider this pair or this pair or this pair or this pair, any pair of charges, which means a source charge and a test charge. It could be test charge, it could be Q2, Q1, Q3, Q4. Any pair you consider, the force of interaction between any of these pairs is unaffected by the presence of other charges. That is the sum and substance of the principle of superposition. Okay, we'll come to that. So what is most important here is, let us assume for a moment these test charges were not present. Then the question is whether this influence was there or this influence was not there. The answer to that, what is this influence? This influence I am talking about the presence of the electric field. Okay, when I say electric field, what I am trying to say is the force of interaction between any pair of charges is happening through this field. This field is the one that is actually giving rise to. So the field strength goes decreasing, which means farther this charge goes, the force of interaction is going to be smaller. Closer they come, the force of interaction depicted by these black arrows, whose lengths are increasing closer to the source charge. That means the force is going to be stronger. Okay, so that is exactly this depiction is. These field lines are a fantastic concept. We'll come to that when we talk about Gauss law. But I have given you a clear picture what is to come there. So in the absence of test charges, what I'm meaning is, assume that if the test charges are not present, there is a force waiting to happen. What it means is, moment I bring a test charge, tuck, there is a force of repulsion because the source charge is positive, the test charge is also positive, there is a force of repulsion immediately as soon as I bring the test charge. If test charge was not there, there is a force waiting to happen. Okay, so you must, this force waiting to happen is something is actually inside the physical quantity, that is field. That's what I want to tell you. Okay, so how do I define this field? The electric field can be defined as the force experienced by a unit positive charge. That's what the electric field is. Now, having said this, let us try to get little bit of mathematics out of it and get a vector representation of this field with respect to the position vector. Position vector is always taken with respect to reference point. So I invoke the Cartesian coordinate system, which is easy to imagine. Let us say I have a point charge here, which I call it as source charge, capital Q, at a distance r prime with respect to, or the position vector is simply here r prime because I'm considering with respect to the origin. Okay, now by now you have understood that there is a field surrounding by this charge, and these field lines emanate radially outward because I consider a source charge to be positive source charge. So the S was taken from that respect. Okay. So if you see here, okay, so this is my test charge. This test charge is +1 coulomb. Okay, test charge is +1 coulomb. So I am going to compute the field expression for field. because we know already the expression for force of interaction for any charge. But as I defined the electrostatic field as the force experienced by a unit charge, and by convention we always have this sign of this unit charge to be positive, which means it is positive 1 coulomb at point P of R, which means this the position vector R, okay, unprimed coordinate. Okay, so now I want to know the line joining them between these two charges, that is the distance. I call it as actually the line joining should be this one. I call it as PS, but rather if you want to, so what I mean is actually it should have been SP rather. Okay, to be precise, it should have been SP. Tell you what is the reason for that. Should have been vector SP. So this R prime plus SP gives this vector. You must write it the right way. SP, vector SP, right? So R prime plus SP gives you vector R by law of parallelogram or the triangle law of addition of vectors. So we know the distance between the two charges, test charge and the source charge, and the force experienced by this unit coulomb charge is the field. So we can write the expression in this fashion. It's straightforward. The only thing is what I have done is I have replaced the R square, what is capital R, which is the SP. I have replaced the magnitude of SP with this vectorial representation, and AR is along the direction SP. What it means is it is the vector R minus vector R prime. Okay, so this vector plus this vector gives this vector. All right, so that is the concept over here. So unit vector is related to the vector by, if I multiply the magnitude with the unit vector, it gives the full vector. So unit vector is nothing but the vector by the magnitude. That is why R square now has become R cube. Okay, and capital R is the SP. Fine. Principle of superposition, as I told you a while ago, it is not a logical necessity. It is an experimental fact. Unequivocally, I am stating this fact. Okay, and the principle of superposition is fantastic. If you look at that principle of superposition, what it says is the interaction between any pair of charges is unaffected by the presence of the other charges. That is the substance. So I have a region here, and in this region I have several source charges. Now I bring in a test charge which is marked by this red color. Okay, so that is the denotation, denoting the red color denotes the test charge. Now this test charge experiences the force due to the field created by these individual source charges, and the force due to this charge with this charge, for example, is due to this one field. The force due to this charge is due to its own field. The force due to this charge is, okay, the force experienced by this test charge I am talking about, and I am assuming this collection of charges to be at rest because or quasi-static or extremely slow varying, because I told you there is nothing like the charges being at rest. Okay, so try to understand that. But for the sake of understanding deeper concepts, we assume the charges to be at rest. So you understand that these charges are at rest, these source charges. The test charges is brought. So this is my one source charge. It will experience the force due to this field surrounding this source. If I have another source charge, this test charge will experience the field due to its own. So the net force experienced by this is sum of all these individual forces. So which means The presence of other charges does not affect the interaction between this charge and this charge. Very, very important and a beautiful statement here. Okay, so the net force experienced by a test charge due to a collection of charges is given by sum of the individual forces due to each of the source charge that the test charge experiences. Okay, so that is the, so F equal to vector F equal to F1 plus F2 plus F3 up to Fn. It's a vectorial addition. Okay, not a normal magnitude scalar numbers. It's a vectorial addition, and this is actually this simple statement, but has far-reaching consequences. Okay, so it's very, very important statement. With Coulomb's law and principle of superposition, one can solve any electrostatic problems without a doubt. But we continue to learn this electrostatics in the next 10 classes to develop some bag of mathematical tricks. In the process, we introduce some new quantities and new law to help us visualizing the field and both quantitatively and qualitatively in a facile manner. That is the reason why we are going to continue to learn this electrostatics. Otherwise, with Coulomb's law and principle of superposition, the electrostatics is done and dusted, which means we are complete. So it's all there. So what I explained. So what I wanted to tell you is the net sum is actually given by this sigma notation. Okay, so that is the main thing. Now let us take down two problems and which will actually exemplify the purpose of learning vector algebra. Okay, and we will make use of some trigonometry concept also. Okay, so both are essential. So fundamental mathematics you can't escape as an engineer, and physics also. So find the electric field at a point Z directly above the midpoint of the line connecting the two equal charges plus Q and separated by a distance D. So these are the plus Q1 plus Q2. I name them like that. This is a line joining the two charges. Now I want to find a field at a point directly above, at a point Z directly above the midpoint. The midpoint is here. So directly above this midpoint, I want to calculate, and that is at a distance Z. Like that. Okay. Now I want to know what is the field experienced. What is the field at this point? So, or what is the force experienced by a unit positive charge? Okay. So that is the idea. So if I want to do that, compute that, I need to go here and develop the concept. So this unit positive charge experiences a force due to Q1, and this unit positive charge experiences a force due to Q2. Now this is a positive charge, the source is also positive. So what it means is the force of interaction is going to be repulsive in this case, and it will be along the line joining the two charges. So which means from here to here, from here to here. So as shown in this diagram. Now the distance between the test charge and the source charge is R. Okay, depicted in this figure. So the fields are also written as E1 hat and E2 hat. Now the net force or the net force experienced by this unit positive charge will give rise to the net field experienced by this at this point. That is what we want to see. And how do I compute? So this Q1 and Q2 are two equal charges, which means the force due to this E1 is going to be Q, okay, Q by 4 pi epsilon naught capital R square AR hat along the line joining. Similarly, due to this charge, E2 is going to be Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R square AR hat But this AR hat is different from this one. So this I have to call it as, although R is the same, but the distance is the same to this point. But that is coming basically due to the geometry, the way we have imagined the problem. But the directions of these two fields, E1 and E2, are different. And these are vectors. So I have to invoke the law of parallelogram or law of triangles to add these vectors. So resolve these vectors, and if I resolve these vectors, E1, for example, I will have a vertical component due to E1, horizontal component due to E1, and which will be like this. Similarly for E2. Now these components you can see very clearly, the horizontal component due to E1 and E2 are in opposite directions, like this. Okay, like this. So which means they are going to cancel out. The only component that is going to add up is a vertical component. So that is what is essentially captured in this vectorial representation. Very beautiful representation, and you can see that the vertical total net field experienced by this by this unit Coulomb charge at the point P is going to be 2q cos theta. The point P is here I am referring, 2q cos theta 4 pi epsilon naught r square, because this angle is theta I have kept, so this angle will be theta. So this is the adjacent side, which means it will be summing it up because it is along the same direction, 2q cos theta 4 pi epsilon naught r square AC hat. Now I have removed that AR hat from with AC hat because the vertical component is clearly along the Z direction. So I have to replace the Z direction as the correct direction for this field, net field. Now what is cos theta and what is R? R is going to be with respect to the distance between the two charges. It is going to be given by the Pythagoras theorem with this triangle. So it is going to be d by 2 square plus z square will be the r square. So you can again get that value, and cos theta is going to be the adjacent angle to this angle, which is z by r. So substitute both of them, you are going to get this expression. So this is the expression for the field at a point P directly above the midpoint of this. Suppose if I have it at some other point, then it is going to be different. Now, okay, it is going to be different. So it is directly above the midpoint, it is fine. Then again you have to bring the concept of the vectorial addition and then try to ascertain the field in the right manner, employing both vector addition concept and trigonometry where this point is located and with respect to the charges. So now one more point I want you to emphasize here. These two charges are separated by a distance d, and I am looking at the field at this point. Suppose I go farther and farther. Now the distance between these two charges, when I look farther and farther, the distance between them will be looking closer. Okay, and a point will come when these two charges will be adding up. So that will be like, for example, when I am flying at an altitude in a plane and look through the window, look at our house, the house comes to a smaller. As I fly higher and higher, the house becomes to a point. At some point I cannot even see because I will be above the clouds. That's a different story. But what I want you to think is that the 2 point charges, when they are looked at far away from the charges itself, these two charges are going to look like a single point charge. So it is as if the two charges are concentrated at this midpoint. That is the point I want to make. So which means d is actually going to tend to 0. Substitute d tending to 0. I will get z cube in the denominator. One of the z's gets cancelled. So I will get 2q 4 pi epsilon naught z square AC. Now what is this 2q? Is the sum of the two charges. Okay, so this is a very important concept. Now we will come to a situation where let us see these two charges are having opposite signs, but they carry equal charges in magnitude. Let us say one proton and one electron, for example, right? So they have proton and electron have the same charge, but they are in having opposite. Proton is positively charged, electron is negatively charged. In this case, we will see that it is very easy to see, having explained the previous one. Now what is going to happen is, I have come to a point where I am going to differ. Now the field due to Q2 being negative, okay, Q2 is a negative charge. I have indicated by minus over here, okay. So that is just to ensure that it is not a positive charge, it is a minus Q2, means minus Q2 equal to Q. Q2 itself is minus Q. Both are equal charges. So they are, one is positive charge, other is a negative charge, but they are of equal magnitude. When two charges are of equal magnitude but having opposite signs, plus Q and minus Q, they constitute, separated by finite distance, they constitute what is known as the electric dipole. So the field that we are going to compute is due to a dipole. Very important concept in electrostatics. Okay, so having said that, now the field at this point is going to be, that is the force experienced by a unit positive charge at this point due to Q1 is going to be repulsive nature, whereas the force experienced by this unit positive charge at this point here due to Q2 is going to be attractive nature. So that is exemplified in this vectorial representation. You can see the E1 direction and E2 direction, it is like this. So which means this you can clearly see, for example, it is like this. If you want to put it this manner, fine. So these my two charges over on the ground plane, and this force is along this direction, this force is along that direction. So the resultant is sum of these by law of parallelogram. Now if I resolve the vectors as usual, for E1 I will get a vertical component, a horizontal component. For E2 also horizontal component and vertical component, and I can get this. The vertical component, it is very evident that vertical components cancel in this case, the horizontal component add up. So how do I compute this field? Taking the help of the trigonometry and also the Pythagoras theorem, I can easily nail this problem as shown here. So it is the vertical component is which is cancelling, the horizontal component is getting added up. So that is the opposite side to the angle, which means you will have a sin theta. So opposite to that of the angle itself. So that is a sin theta component that is adding up the horizontal component E1H plus E2H, where E1H is the horizontal component due to the field due to Q1. E2H is the horizontal component of the field due to Q2. Okay, they add up and they are along the direction AX. Now don't tell me that this is AX, this is AY, AC. How is that, sir? I am only telling you that when you say right-handed system, my AY will be into the computer or into the notebook or into the board, depending on where I am looking at. So I keep a right-handed screw system, okay, right-handed system, then I am okay, coordinate system. So R square Z square plus D by 2 square. So I substitute over here. What I get is essentially the field due to a electric dipole. Very important quantity. Okay, you will again look at this quantity at a later point of time. So remember this quantity. Now far field due to this dipole is going to be 0 because D tends to 0. D is in the numerator also. So which means this what is known as the dipole moment. Okay, so you will see that this D is as we tend to 0, the E is going to be 0. That is what the expression. Now we will come to the continuous charge distribution in the next class. We will deal with continuous charge distribution. To give you a feel for continuous charge distribution, what I will tell is the continuous charge distribution. By that I mean the charges are no more discrete in nature. It is not point charges spatially segregated from each other. It is rather the charge is all around the body and it is continuously spread. So if I take this volume or this volume, the charge density, this volume can be depicted by denoted by a charge density. The same charge density will be here or here or here, anywhere in space. So we are going to deal with uniform charge density depending on whether the charges are distributed along a line or in a volume or in a surface. We are going to get line charge density for a line, volume charge density for a volume, and surface charge density for a surface. Okay, so we will take each of these examples and deal some problems with that after introducing the concept of this line charge density, surface charge density, volume charge density in the next class. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.